All right, this is going to be a quick walkthrough of my web implementation of the Spot It game. So first, let me show you how this web page works, and then I'll explain how I coded it. So the web page, the game works by looking for a match. Every card has one and only one match. On this one, it's the CD. I can click the match on either card, and it will animate, sort of make the match pop out so I can see it bigger, and then move the card and bring me a new card, which will have a new match, which is most likely a different match, but it could be the same. Now I have to go looking. If I click the wrong match, it spins and my score gets worse. There, my score is going down. If I click the right match, my score goes up and it moves and I get the new match. All right, so what's kind of fun about this is that this is obviously like a computer game I've built here, and this is meant for two-player on a touchscreen device you'd set up on either side. And if this player on the left gets the match, then they get the points. So their score just went up. If this player gets the match, they get the points. So anyway, what's cool about this is it's really just HTML. So there's not any. I mean, there's JavaScript that does the animation, but the fundamental layout is all done with simple HTML code, and then using CSS to do the making pretty of things. So fundamentally, what we have here is a div up top, which has this player information, these controls. Here I've got a little credit that drops down. And then we have a div for this card and a div for this card. And let me use the code inspector to show you those a little bit closer up. So if the code inspector lets me look at the tree, I've got my head, that's where all the style information is in my scripts. And I have the body here. And like I said, I've got my credits div, which is hidden until I click credits, and then it slides into view. I have the scores div, which contains those scores and also has the controller. And then I have card and card 2. And those are just divs, which again, normally these would display as sort of big blocks of text, or in this case, a big block with a list of images. Actually, I can probably show you what happens what I've done is I've added border radius 50%. If I turn that off, you'll see they just be squares. But that border radius command makes it into a nice circle. Then these are given widths and heights, and they're positioned with absolute positioning. If I turned that off, oops, it doesn't let me do that. The cards would just be one on top of the other. The absolute positioning lets me display it precisely in space at 10 pixels. When I do the animation, what the JavaScript code is doing is just changing that left value to slowly move the card over. And that just happens automatically with the code. But that's all it's doing, is changing the style information for that div, which is in my CSS, and that slides it over. So that's just all that is. Now, inside of these cards, these are just images. So I have each image, which I've calculated exactly where to put it. Again, positioned in space using top and left, which are relative to the card. So, oops, let me find one that's more visible. That's the scissors, which are a little see-through. If I grab this orange here, I could move it using the top and left values, and those are calculated to try to make it more or less a perfect circle. So there you can see me moving it, and that's my code just calculates that automatically. And then the image itself is rotated with this transform, which I could move that to, and there you can see it rotating. So all I'm doing is is basically changing the images every time I change the card, and then the rotations are all determined in order to make it fit in this kind of messy circle. And it's just a little bit of math I did to do that in my code. But fundamentally, this is all done with simple HTML, nothing but divs and image elements, and then CSS and a lot of absolute positioning. Now, one of the key tricks is that these images are positioned relative not to the screen, but to the card. So all I have to do is the 0, 0, in other words, for the images is right up here, which I can show you. if I were to take this guy and put left to 0 and top to 0, it would go to the top left corner of the card. Now, of course, the card also has, these are positioned relative to each card. All right, now the jQuery code then does the animation, and I've sort of done a nice job showing you. You can just imagine by changing the left value what it's doing. It also can change the width and the height of the image, which is what it does when you get the match right. So let me find the match here. If you get the wrong match, it does a neat little animation where it spins it. If you get the right match, it grows and changes, grows and changes, and moves. And you can actually watch the code here change as the JavaScript is manipulating the page. Boop, there it goes. You can watch it move. So these code inspectors make it super fun to code. The actual JavaScript I won't dig into. There's lots of different functions. Here's the animations. Oh yeah, these cards eventually spin. I'll show you that. I animate the entire card if you get once you hit a certain point threshold, which is kind of fun. There they go. Woo! The whole card is spinning now, and that's, you can see this rotation there, just changing the rotate values. Here's the code that just changes these scores. And you can see this is obviously many more lines of code than we have used in class, so it gets a little more complicated. This is the code that lays out the images on the card based on a radius, and using some mathematics to do that. You can see I'm using sines, and so if you know any trigonometry, you can imagine how that works. Here's the code that does the little animation where it makes the images get bigger. So that's an example of very simple code. Grab the image that matches the particular source of what the particular image we're looking for, and then make the height get bigger. And when you're done with that, make it get smaller. So all it does is say animate height plus 50, width plus 50. And then when you're done, animate height minus 50, width minus 50. And that's what does that little grow animation. So that's probably more than you needed. There's a quick walkthrough. Let's watch that growing 50 up and shrinking 50. There it goes. Growing 50, shrinking 50. And now in this case, it also spins the card just to be extra cruel. So that's my demonstration of my project.